Welcome everyone to part 2 of tonight's Opportunity Zone Meetup on the topic of challenges to opportunity zones. In this part 2 tonight, we're going to go through a list of challenges that have been identified and recognized. We're going to drill down a little bit to try to make sure we're all talking about the same type of challenge. And you're going to have a chance to either add to the list or to make some observations on that as I go through this. And then in the next part of tonight's program, we're going to come back through the same list and talk about fixes, things that can be done to either cure or mitigate each of these challenges. And we're going to go from there. So first one up on the list for the program is awareness. Right now, if you go out and talk to people about opportunity zones, the vast majority have never heard anything about opportunity zones at all, nothing. And then of those who have heard about it, they haven't heard enough to know that they should be interested or why they should be interested or how to make a decision based upon taking action to do something. And if they're conservative of all, this is new, this is risky, so it has those kind of issues. And like one of my conversations today said, it says if you could walk in here with a case study, it will make all the difference in the world of getting the entire city council to bless this particular project because they hate doing anything to be first of kind. It's human nature, it's very natural. Not everybody enjoys doing something they don't know how to do like we do. So as we plunge into opportunity zones, awareness is one of the issues. And I apologize, Steve, but I didn't put batteries in my controller, so I'm going to be walking back and forth. Second one, it's all about real estate. As opportunity zones came into existence, the initial reaction, almost at every level, was this is purely about real estate. There was no references to business, and even though it's supposed to be helping distressed economic communities, it's not about the community, it's about the real estate. And a lot of the first examples that were given, you would listen to it and you go, what is he talking about? That you would have to not only do a real estate, but it'd have to be a 10-year hold with no revenue for 10 years. And you're like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't even know anyone who would do that. And the models and the examples and everything that you go through, it's all about real estate. And so we've had conversations with a number of people, different communities are going, yeah, I read about opportunity zones. There's nothing in it for me. I'm saying, so you have no businesses in your community? And they're going, well, it's a real estate thing. I go, no, it can help real estate, definitely can help real estate, but it really could help businesses more. It could have greater impact, greater leverage, and more importantly, we talked about this earlier this year in this meetup group, if you do an opportunity zone investment in real estate, you'll get a bump from the development, you'll get some appreciation over the 10-year time period. So the expectation by most people is, yeah, you should be able to make money at some rate of return over that 10-year term. But you're still going to cap out somewhere. There's no way that a real estate's going to go 100 times in 10 years. But certain businesses can readily go 100 times in value in 10 years, and particularly certain startups and certain technology businesses. And since we're measuring the benefit of opportunity zones by the taxes you do not pay at the end of 10 years, businesses have a far greater upside potential than anything you can do in real estate. And when I bring this up, they go, yeah, but businesses are riskier. And I'm like, no, let's not go into this unsupported, unsubstantiated risk scenario. But even if they are riskier, if you put them into a portfolio, unlike junk bonds, you may actually reduce the risk and bring the risk down to a tolerable level. But this has been the problem, and if you read anything on opportunity zones today, it's hard to find anything useful about businesses, and a lot of the statements that are made that are negative, even the criticisms that are being made, are limited to real estate. They don't apply to businesses. So this becomes a second problem that we are talking about, which is all about real estate. The third challenge that has come up is businesses are not taking advantage of this opportunity. We talked about this a little bit off camera earlier. But anytime you ask a business to raise money, the first problem they're going to tell you is they don't have time. Okay, if they do have time, or they think they have time, then they don't have the money. And this little sign says, need money to raise money. It seems to be the catch-22. Yeah, and yeah, and that's where people call me usually. Hi, I have no money, I need to raise money. Oh, by the way, if you don't mind, could you get it tomorrow? Because the next day will be too late. And I'm like, let me think about that. Let me go get my magic wand. Because it may be necessary to go outside of this dimension and find someplace else where I can pull money through a portal. But it's a problem. And then what we've found, like any new source of money, the lack of knowledge about how to use it, how to gain it, is its own challenge. It contributes to the time issue. I don't have time to learn. I don't have time to figure it out. I don't have time to implement it. And then if they go to their support base, and this happens a lot, hey, I'm interested in opportunity zones. I talked to my accountant, he had never heard of it before. Or my accountant, I talked to him, her, and they said, no, you should not do this. And I'm like, why? And the answer was, well, they've never done it before. I go, that's really not a good answer from a service provider, but whatever it is. So this is one of the challenges, is it's the same challenge whether they're raising money by borrowing from a bank or from crowdfunding or a PACE program or something else. I don't have the money, time, or knowledge to figure out how to do it. That's not their skill base. It's not what they do for a living. It's a distraction from their primary business. This applies to any form of capital anywhere. And opportunity zones being just one more level of regulation and more than a couple different complexities and timing, this makes it hard for a small business to figure out how to take advantage of this. And it's kind of weird, though, in a way, is real estate projects take time to put themselves together, be ready to receive money. A lot of the businesses are standing ready to receive money. They could take money at almost any time, where it may take months or even years to prepare a real estate project to be ready to receive capital. And yet the businesses, even though the numbers are increasing dramatically, they're still not increasing as much as they could. So this is our third challenge, is failure to seize the day. The fourth one is one that is a very serious, legitimate problem, which is matching the money with the opportunity. Because of the way opportunity zone laws work, there are specific provisions in the legislation to put the money to work as quickly as possible. They don't want you banking the money somewhere, sitting on the money, gathering tax incentives when the money's not working. So once you recognize a capital gain as an individual or business, you have 6 months maximum where you have to put that money into an opportunity zone fund in order to gain the advantage of the legislation. If you go 6 months and a day, you're out. You don't get to play in that particular game. So you've got a very limited window in which to work. And 6 months may seem like a long time, but if you're hunting for an investment and trying to be selective and figure out what you're looking for, that's great. But there's a lot of people out there who can't find a fund to put money into. It's like, well, if you have $100,000, yes, you can put money in my fund. Yeah, but I only have like $50,000 or $10,000. I'm a small player. Or I'm not with your institution, or any number of other issues. So there's problems getting the money into the fund. And then the fund has a limited period of time to put that money back to work. It's 6+ months, because if this is the first time the fund has raised money, you get the period you're in plus the next 6 months in which to do that. So if somebody were to set up a fund today, like we have for the Colorado Center for Innovation and Community Capital, we actually can take money today, but we don't have to deploy it till June 30th of next year. Our goal is to move it quickly, similar to the legislation, but we don't have that. So you have these two timing things, and that makes it hard, because businesses more commonly need the money yesterday, so that makes them easier to accept money today. But real estate projects, everyone I'm associated with, we have all kinds of issues where we can't do that yet. We have to get this done or lock down or get a permission or a zoning change or something. And actually, when the legislation was first passed, we were talking about doing opportunity zones in Colorado, they were saying, we need to bring all the money from California here. And the response is, well, why would California come here? Because they can't get a permit in less than 3 years. So there's no way for them to take advantage of this. And they've actually had to do some things in certain communities to accelerate the process. Because once the fund has it has to deploy it, but if it puts it into a business, then the business with appropriate plan and use of proceeds statement has 30 months in which to put that money to work, which gives you that time to deal with all these weirdnesses. But they didn't even think California could do even 30 months. There's a couple counties in Colorado that I will not name because I'm too close to them, but they fall in that same category. Some of them even imposed moratoriums on opportunity zones, so you may now know who I'm talking about. Yeah, so there's challenges here, and these aren't going away. These challenges are going to continue, but that doesn't mean we can't fix them or mitigate them in some fashion. So challenge number 4 is difficulty of syncing up between the fund and the project. The 5th challenge has to do with the regulations. The first regulations were passed over a year ago. Even though the law was passed in the December of 2017, then the first set of regulations didn't come out till last year. They were all about real estate, which contributed to the theme and concept that this is all about real estate. And they finally got around to a second set of proposed regulations, not final, but proposed in April of this year, which addressed a number of the issues that have been raised in real estate, but also did a whole lot of things to explain what it means to be a qualified opportunity zone business, what you have to do to qualify and remain qualified, which is a challenge for a number of businesses that don't fit in well there. And so the regulations are not final. They could change. The good news is from the top down within the government, everybody seems to be in favor of this happening. They're working hard to get things done. They're just a large government agency moving at a relatively slow pace from a business standpoint, but fast according to a government standpoint. And there are a lot of questions that are still unanswered. So this has been a challenge for somebody who has a project that falls in a gray area where we don't know if we qualify, we don't know if we can stay qualified over a period of 10 years. So the 5th one has to do with uncertain regulations. The 6th one is an interesting one, and we're going to have fun talking about the fix on this one. Some interesting articles have come out recently, but it's a 10-year investment. And I myself, having worked with capital for 4 decades, have to think about how many of the different projects I worked on that intentionally wanted to be around 10 years from now. Unfortunately, we have fallen into a sense of instant gratification within the capital industry. We talk about unicorn sprints, a statistically impossible objective to be done in a statistically impossible short period of time. And these are the popular things of the media today, which ignores almost all businesses and any business that has a ordinary common ROI or a common ordinary growth rate or profit margin as they go forward. And now we're going, but if you're going to invest in this, get the activity out of it, it's 10 years. And even on our project with the Funders Fund, we had to stop, rethink. What do we need to do? Well, the first thing we finally realized is we had to make our primary goal, the business has to last 10 years that we helped raise money. Otherwise, our fee, the primary, I will say, upside of our fee, we won't realize the benefit of that. And that's where our big payday is in alignment with the business if it survives 10 years. So we had to start thinking about how do you get them from here to there? How do you keep them on track? How do you keep them from going off track? what can you do to assure that there is a payday at the end of 10 years? So we've been looking at what we call maintenance fees, similar to a software design development, where after you buy the original license, you're going to maintain it over a period of time in order to achieve productivity by doing capital coaching, allowing for annual checkups and reviews and updates and keeping people thinking about what's available. And at the same time, then we're going, but yeah, if they get to 10 years, a lot of small businesses may be fine, but they don't have the cash to buy us out. So we have put into our contracts a sinking fund where the business has to put money into an account every month with the idea that at the end of 10 years, there'll be enough cash there that they can buy the stock back from us that they gave to us originally at least twice the price. So we're doubling our money over 10 years, which is not a fantastical ROI, but over 10 years, that's not bad, particularly if you do it in volume. And now we're looking with experiments on how else can we work with that. So we've been talking about using whole life insurance and maybe buying Keyman and doing it in a way where we're creating other benefits to make the sinking fund a more productive use of that money. Even though it's not a lot of money, it still can be quite a sum. And we're thinking through this. But the 10-year time period is perceived by everybody as greater risk. And even if it's not perceived as greater risk, it's less control. People go, I want access to my cash in less than 10 years. Again, there are ways to deal with this, but when the first response is, it's 10 years, I can't even wrap my mind around it, it becomes a challenge to implementation of opportunity zones. So number 6 is 10 years. So one is matching schedules. I talked about this a little bit earlier in terms of matching up, but it's also interfering with how you go about raising the money because I don't know where the money's at today. And if I need money in October of next year, what fund is actually going to have money in the bank in October of next year? Which fund can I go to at that time? Do I create my own fund? Do I go talk to existing funds? We have all this stuff going on at the time level, which is different from the matching problem, which is a criteria issue. This is simply a time sequencing type of thing. When the lights turn red at an intersection, you want the other lights to turn green and vice versa. You don't want them both turning green at the same time. So this timetable matching to say when we're ready to receive money, will the money be there for us to receive is our next issue. And then the last major issue that's come up repeatedly is there's not enough money. Somebody says, well, I need $1 million and I'm going to raise it through an Opportunity Zone fund. And somebody goes, well, yeah, but we don't have enough people with capital gains in order to provide you with the funding you need. It isn't that it isn't there, but it's not where you can find it. So it kind of ties back to some of the other issues we're talking about. But they go, well, I still need to raise the $1 million. Am I stuck? Meaning, is Opportunity Zone funding the only choice I have? And to this point, most people are going, yeah, I'm going to raise money. I'm going to create a fund. That's going to be my source of capital. And a lot of people are doing their own dedicated single-purpose funds, and that's going to be their only source of capital. And they are basically painting themselves in the corner. They are limiting their choices and options, which automatically is going to inhibit their capability of going out and finding the money when they need it, as they need it. So this is our number 8 issue, is not enough Oz money. So at this point, these are the issues that I've picked out based upon what I've been doing. I'm interested in any feedback or any suggestions of additional issues that any of you may have encountered or think should be on this list, so we can do what we can in the next section to try to come up with a solution for these. So does anybody want to add to this?
I'll throw out some ideas.
Okay.
Brainstorming here. With all these various issues, all of which really need to be worked on and fixed, there's a certain amount of bandwidth problems just in trying to manage all this and pull it all together. The organization, each deal, each organization has to sort of settle all these things for their particular opportunities, and that takes considerable bandwidth and knowledge base.
Yeah, it's a problem in that we call it a level of complexity type of an issue. There isn't a simple solution. We have shared in this group and in other presentations I've done, there's a syndrome called the streetlight syndrome, where a cop comes walking down the street and he finds a guy on his knees on the street. He says, "What'd you do?" He says, "I lost my keys." So I get down, he searches for 15 minutes. He says, "I can't find your keys. You sure this is where you lost them?" "No, I didn't lose them here. I lost them over there." "Well, where are you looking here?" "Well, the light's better here." We tend to raise capital in the same fashion. The flashiest, shiniest object is the person we go to ask money from, even though we don't meet their criteria in size, purpose, mission, maturity, any other thing. Oh, they have money, I need money, that's the end of the equation. And so when you start looking at Opportunity Zone money, we actually have added a couple more layers or barriers, even after we've met all the other ones. Can our time clock sync up? Is it the right dollar amount? Can we get these other things done? That level of complexity makes it harder. Anything that makes it harder means it's less likely to occur, and the people who are less trained, less skilled, less knowledgeable are going to do it less likely because it can't get there from here. So I think it's fair to just add the complexity as another way of saying that there are things here. There are reflections on this, but at some level, raising money through an opportunity zone is just harder. And if it's harder, some people will not be able to make it happen. So
we were talking earlier about communities themselves, the local government, not really understanding it and maybe not being enthusiastic enough about how to bring in that money, how to help the businesses, whatever.
Yeah, so my forecast is we're seeing three waves: real estate, businesses, then communities. The communities are last to the table because they tend to need to do this by consensus, which is automatically going to slow you down. But we've talked to a number of communities where they're saying, I'm having a hard time just keeping up with an SBA loan and the complexity of that, which is supposed to be one of the easiest things to do, even though it's not. And now you're talking about an opportunity zone, and the local economic development director or whoever is going, I haven't had time. I don't know how this works. Or one we talked to a couple weeks ago, I thought it was all about real estate. And we point blank said, well, did you even do a survey of all the businesses already in the opportunity zones? Because the first thing I would do is I'd find every business that's already in a zone. I'd pick the top 5 who are in a position to grow, and I would start there. And that's straightforward, not a hard thing to do. But if they don't understand that businesses can participate, they don't know. So the communities are going to be more challenged. I'm going to say that it works at a couple different levels. What we've seen in large urban areas, again, not to name any specific cities, no matter where I'm standing, they haven't really done anything with opportunity zones because they didn't have to. They've got money, they've got access, they've got all kinds of public funding, bonding, this, that, and the other going on. And they look at this as a less important, more complex thing. They're not playing with it. Then you go through a certain middle ground where they're going, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then we get to the smaller communities who are going, I don't get it. I know it's supposed to be good, but I'm not there and I can't make it happen. And at the community level, you also have what I call the political complications if you need more people to agree before you get started, and if more people need to understand and be brought up to speed, it just slows everything down, increases your cost. But from a community standpoint, I ultimately think that the best projects will be community projects because it'll be a business, everybody's benefiting and you're getting the secondary benefit. You're not limited to ROI. You've got enough things happening where a person can go, oh, I'm going to benefit from this, 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 and this. It's not a single path benefit. And then collectively, there should be a complementary effect taking place, which would overall contribute to understanding benefit, sale, pitch, completion, and so on. So I think we're going to end up with communities doing those projects that have been put off forever that were, number 5 on the chart, and we had enough money for 1. And this may be a way to bring Opportunity Zone money in, like on the workforce housing. You're going, we can't subsidize workforce housing here. Well, if the private community comes in and puts up that money, we're going to do workforce housing. We've talked to a number of communities that go, yeah, we're looking at putting up 125 units. We expect they'll be sold in 30 days because there's not been a new house here in forever. The pent-up demand is off the charts, and if they're not luxury condos or something, they should just go in a heartbeat because there just isn't anything there. But communities have a higher level of complexity because they are a community rather than a single source of decision making.
Well,
Yeah.
just to add to that, you have a basis between rural and
Urban.
urban, different place, different geography. And the rural can be big, wide tracts, and the urban might be a postage stamp.
Yeah, we were in a conversation earlier today where it's about $2 billion an acre to get started, and we're like, okay, what would your square footage be on the property? Where would you have to get to break even? And immediately, all the alarms are going off. I don't think this one's doable. Where you can go in a rural community and pick up land for almost free or have it given to you by someone, or work with a church or a religious organization or a school who's trying to better utilize their land and has figured out how to put this into a long-term lease or something where they retain an ownership right and revenue stream to the nonprofit, but it allows a builder to come in and put on a 99-year building and get benefit of Opportunity Zone investment at the same time. And I think that goes back to the awareness issue, though, in that what I've found is investors have a limited tolerance for what they're going to learn about an investment potential. So if I try to educate them on something new, it's a big challenge. If their financial advisor looks at it, I educate the financial advisor, which could be a shorter path, and then they say, we bless this, I've shortened the sales process in doing that. And so we're seeing that a lot where we have to find the intermediaries, the advisors, the service people who are in a position of influence on the decision making, and we have to shorten this long cycle of education awareness and understanding the benefit. And unfortunately, we'll talk about this more in the fixes, even though we're 2 years into this, we haven't started yet. You can't point to 10 different projects that have already been planned, funded, completed to the point where everybody can go, that's a success. And because it's a 10-year thing, we technically won't know for 10 years how well this works. And so there are certain people who are going to wait till we're 10 years into this before they jump, because that's their approach to investing. So these are our challenges. So what we're going to do is after this break, we'll come back and we'll talk about potential fixes, things that can be done, as I say, to either cure or mitigate each of these things. And there are some other things that are problems that I'm not tackling tonight because I don't have a magic wand. And or I'm too old to live long enough to implement those fixes.
And you're at the bottom of the page.
And I'm running out of papers. This is very intentional. I allowed only enough room for 10 problems because I knew that if we got beyond 10, we wouldn't get done tonight. And yes, we do have other things yet to do. Anyway, that's it for this section. Thank you.